Welcome to Check Your Fly. I'm your host, Dave Sanford, and today we're with Bonnie Holden, a registered guide from Maine, and we also have Rich Matthews with us today too. Bonnie is going to show us the art of fly casting. We're just going to stick to just the basics so we can teach our viewers how to fly cast and show them how easy fly fishing really is. Later on we'll be going over the outfits that we have on, what we have, rods, reels, waders, why we have these funny little baskets. Hopefully we can show you the line going through the air as we're casting it, and Bonnie will go over what that line is doing in the air while it's going through the air. Alright, so let's get to it here.
When I first learned how to fly fish, one of the things I didn't understand was how to keep track of my equipment or to know about my equipment, and I think that helps out everybody when they're first learning. So that's one of the first things I like to go over. And I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time, but just to discuss it a little bit. One of the things that everybody sees first off is these fly rods. The one I suggest for saltwater fishing and for striper fishing is at least 9 feet long. The longer the rod, the easier it is to cast. And this particular rod is a 9 weight. It's engineered to take that particular fly line weight. So you don't want to have anything smaller than that or larger than that on this particular fly rod. The next thing we have is the fly reel. And I'm going to put that on. There's usually spots right on your rod to put this. This one has, it's called a down locking fly rod. That means that the foot of the fly reel, which is this part right here, fits down into the rod on the reel seat. There's another section that has actually a little lip on it. That's going to go over the foot of the fly reel. And then it has 2 screws here that I'm just going to wind right down, tighten it up, just finger tight. I don't want it so tight that I can't get it undone later, but not so loose it's going to fall off. It's a little unnerving to lose your fly reel in the salt water. So now that I've attached that, now on here, on the reel itself, is my line. The first part of the line, if you guys can even see this, is the leader. This is the part, sort of like an invisible link between your fly line and your fly. So I pulled that out. Then I get to this thicker stuff, and this is your fly line. And as I said, these lines are engineered to fit certain fly rods. So this is a 9 weight fly line. And what I'm going to do to get started, and this is weighted in the forward section, so it's a little bulkier in the front than this part of it. And when I get back into the back of it, down into the more center of the reel, what's going to happen is it's going to get very thin, and we call that a running line. And this weight forward allows us to cast a longer line, and we're going to want that on the salt water. So what I like to do is pull a whole bunch out, at least twice the length of the fly rod, so that I can start stringing this up through. Now this first little hook here, this is a hook keeper. This isn't a guide, so I don't need to put my line through that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this first guide here. This is a stripping guide. So it has a ceramic insert, and some rods have 2, which this one does. And you can notice what I've done is I've folded over the fly line. That makes it a little easier to string my line up through. And I can pull it through here with a big mess. And actually, if I could get Dave just to hold on to this, you don't really want to put your equipment down into the sand or to the dirt because it will get into that fly reel. And the fly reel does have a drag system on it, or a braking system to slow the fish down, and we don't want to get any grit in there to seize that up so you lose your fish. So I'll just string this up through. You also want to make sure that you don't miss a guide and that you don't wrap the line around the rod as you go through. Now I'm going to pull enough of this through the rod, I might even pull a little bit more, so that I'm actually holding on to the fly line when I come down here, not just to the leader. That gives me some line to work with to get started, so the line isn't going to feed. Because of that being weight forward, if I held it up and I had the short line, the line would actually fall down through the guides. So by being able to hold on to the fly line, that can't happen. Well, let's go out and try some casting. Now that we're out here and we want to get started, I think one of the things that, again, I'm trying to remember what it was like when I first started to fly fish, so I'm trying to go the very basic route. I need to be able to get my fly line out. I have a whole bunch here on the reel, but I need to get it from here out in front of me. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to drop this into the water. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to pull a whole bunch of this line off. And I like to think about 15, 20 feet of line. That will give me a good start on getting some line out. People try to cast too much line in the beginning. Just cast what you can to start with. Don't try to be wonder person out there and casting 90 feet of fly line. Now what I need to do is to get it from here out the end of the fly rod. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back and forth. Let the water pull this out of my hands for me. Straighten it out as I need to. Now when I get about this much fly line out, I've got enough to cast. So now I'm ready to get started on the casting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to the fly rod, and I'm going to have my thumb up on the top here. That gives me a little bit better control, and I'm not going to really be twisting and turning this way. So my thumb's going to be right up on top. I'm not going to squeeze this so hard, from nerves or because this is something new, because no matter how hard I squeeze this, I'm not going to get any juice out of this. So I'm just going to have a nice relaxed grip on this fly rod. Then from this first guide, I talked earlier about this being a stripping guide. From this first guide to my fingertips, I want the line to be taut. I don't want to have a big balloon here or a big piece of slack line, because it's not going to give me an efficient cast. So I'm going to have that taut. Now the other thing I like to do is I like to teach a roll cast. I think that gives people a little more control over their fly line instead of having the line just everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw this rod tip up to myself, right to about here. Some people want to call that 1 o'clock. If that works for you, that's great, or right by your ear. I'm going to stop the rod, I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to punch it forward. And you can see that roll that happens on top of the water. I'll do it again. I'm just going to draw the fly line towards myself. I'm not really taking it out of the water. Stopping the rod tip, pausing for a moment, and then rolling it forward. One of the things that you'll notice is that as I'm bringing this up, when I stop the rod, the line continues, and once it goes behind me is when I'm punching it forward. That gets our line out there for us. Now we're ready to do a regular cast. And that regular cast is going to start with my rod tip down low, and then I'm going to come up slowly to the same point I stopped at the roll cast. Only I'm going to pull the line out of the water this time. So I'm going to come up right about here, and then pull the line off the water, and stop the rod right about there. I'll just roll it forward for right now to do that part of it again. Come up to here, pull it off, and stop the rod tip right about there. Once I've done that, now I've got to let that line extend behind me before I can bring that line forward. If I don't let it straighten out behind me, then it's just going to create a mess in the forward cast. Now I can bring it forward. You want that nice, if you pay attention to the top end of that fly rod, you'll see a loop is formed. You want to try and keep those loops narrow. That will help you fight the wind also and give you a little more control over your fly line. And then you can let some line out. Now once my fly line is complete, my fly cast is complete, or my fly line is down on the water, my hands automatically go like this. I'm going to take my hand, my left hand, from here, and I'm going to bring it right over to my right hand, and I'm going to grab a hold of that fly line in my index finger. That's going to give me the control to start stripping my line in. And stripping your line is just pulling your line in, just like that. And that's actually fishing your fly. And you're going to do that in a manner, what you got to think about is what these fish are feeding on. So I may do it slow and steady, or I may do it really fast, depending on the bait or the fly that I'm using, to give the motion of that, what I'm trying to imitate, the bait that I'm trying to imitate. So the minute my line is down, it goes underneath my forefinger, and I'm going to start stripping it in. So as I come up, forward position, I open my hand. And that's going to let that line sail right out through your guides. If you've done your cast correctly and you've stopped your rod tip to allow that line to extend behind you and speed it up a little bit, you will allow that line to go right out through your fingertips and get your line out. Another way of getting your fly line out is to false cast. That means I'm not going to bring the rod tip down, I'm not going to bring that fly line down onto the water the first cast like I've been doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up, and I'm going to keep my line up. That allows me to extend my line also, kind of when you need that last big push. So when I come off the water, it's staying in the air, well, supposedly staying in the air, and then letting it go. I'll try it again. And again, notice that the minute my line hits the water, it goes right underneath my fingertips. That's an automatic motion. And that gets us some line out so that we can fish.
How you doing?
Good.
Dave Sanford from Check Your Fly.
Hi, Dave. Steve Cook. Welcome.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Why don't you come on down here and take a look? Eric's tying some flies right now.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're got a flatwing, a Rhody Flatwing, famous fly.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot about that Rhody Flatwing. How you doing, Eric?
Good,
Dave
how are you,
Sanford
Dave?
from Check Your Fly.
Nice to meet you. Well, we're gonna tie a flatwing tonight. This is a variation of the Rhody, but we're gonna do a real Rhody tonight.
Wow. All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's get started here.
Excellent. This fly starts off with a 254 1/0 eagle claw hook. I tie with monofilament tying thread, and this is the ultra fine version. We're going to start with some white bucktail. Your knee is your friend when you're a fly tyer. I use it all the time. It's a nice area to put your material. And the white bucktail that we're going to use, you want fairly long as you can find. And I'm going to pull off a small bunch. And I'm going to cull out the short ones. Get rid of those. So I'm left with just the nice long ones. And I'm going to tie this in between the barb of the hook and the point of the hook, right about there. And I lash this down. Now, this is called the tail of the fly, and this tail is going to do a couple of things. It's going to support the feather that I'm going to pluck out right here. This is a saddle hackle. This is an olive feather. It is going to support the feather, and it also takes the hook shank and makes it a little fatter, so I can put this feather right on top of it. A flat wing takes a feather and ties it horizontally on the hook shank, as opposed to vertically like most of the flies you might have seen. So I'm going to take this feather and I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to support the feather with my pointer finger, and I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to pinch it to the shank of the hook. And I'm going to do a couple of loose wraps and then get tighter. And that'll stay right nice and flat for you. I'm going to take a little glue and secure that in there, so hopefully it won't twist on me. And from there I'm going to take some Flashabou gold, and we'll take 3 strands, 3 or 4. And the way that I attach the flash is I'm going to come behind the thread and I'm going to capture it. I call this folding in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger the material. And we lay that right in there. And I want the flash to be longer than the feather. I want the flash to be the longest part of the fly. And that does something for us. It adds a little flash in the tail, so that flash becomes the tail. From there I'm going to take some body braid, pearlescent in color. Trim off 3 or 4 inches, enough to work with. And I'm going to try and cover my tracks here. That's what we do in fly tying. We're starting at the tail, we're working our way towards the eye of the hook, and we're always trying to cover what we just did in the past step. So I'm going to wrap this around, and I'm just going to wrap this up to the eye of the hook, like so, and then do a crossover to lash that down, and I'll get rid of the excess. From here, the fly is going to take a wing, which is on the top, and on the bottom we're going to put some material that's called the belly or the throat. And I'm going to work with the belly first, And with this vise, it's very nice. I can go ahead and rotate it. This is called a rotary vise. I roll the vise over and I'm able to work very easily on the bottom part of the fly. Right now we're going to work on the belly of the fly, which is the bottom part. And I'm going to take the bucktail, fold it over, trim it as tight as I can to the hide, and I'm trying to create a nice even flow that's going to flow into the tail, and I want to create the underbelly of the bait fish. This particular fly imitates all kinds of bait fish that we find in Narragansett Bay. You can tie it heavy, you can tie it sparse, you can do all kinds of things. It will imitate a silverside, a sand eel, a baby pogie, a butterfish, all kinds of different things. And that's one of the reasons why I fish this about 80% of the time that I'm on the water doing a guide trip. So I've got the belly down. I'm going to move to the top. I just swung the vise over. And I'm going to take some blue bucktail and I'm going to trim off just a little bit. 5, 6, 7 strands or so. Close to the hide. And I'll trim it. And I'm going to tie this right on top of the hook shank. And I use my finger to spread it out a little bit. With this vise, it's really nice. When you start to tie flies, your fly on this side looks real good. You forget to look at the other side and you get these big gaps in there. So with this vise, again, spinning it back and forth, I can check to make sure that both sides of the fly look the same. So now that I've got that on there, I'm going to take some crystal flash, which is another type of sparkly material, and just 2 strands. And I'm going to fold this in, go behind the thread, capture it, bring it over into my to the 2 fingers here, pinch it together, and I want to stagger the ends. And I can roll this right on top, like so. From there, I'm going to take some olive bucktail, and we're going to take off a fairly good chunk. If I was counting strands, maybe 25 to 30. Trim it close. Always cull out the short ones and any fuzz that's in there. Sometimes we use a little comb, but this is okay. And I want to measure this. And this I want to be about as a little longer than the blue and the yellow combined. So I'll trim it right there. Lash it down. A couple of loose wraps, and then I'm going to take my finger again and I'm going to spread it out. And I want this olive color to meet the white color from the bottom. And after you've spun it around, make sure you go back and put a couple of tight wraps on there. Okay, from there we're going to take another color of crystal flash, and this is an olive color, dark olive, and I'll take 4 strands of this and trim that. And again, every time I use flash material, I'm going to fold it in, and I'll show you why. If I just lash it down like this, once, twice, and I can take this and I can pull this right out of here. Alright? Fish grabs a hold of that, he's going to tear up your fly, you're going to have to tie a new one. But the technique that I just showed you, folding it in, let me get out another 4 strands. Position these. I got 3 strands. Fold it in. And now when I pull on it, it's not going to go anywhere. So lash that down. And we're going to end it with some peacock curl. Now the peacock curl you can get right off the stalk like this, or you can get it strung like this. And the peacock curl that is on the strand is a lot nicer than the stuff that is strung together. So I'm going to take 4 strands, lay them all together, I'm going to measure them. This is going to be longer than any of the bucktail. That's about right. Trim that off. We're always using the natural tips. Never trim the natural tips. And I'm going to tie this right on top of the fly. Now the fly looks good now, and you could fish it like this and catch plenty of fish, but it looks a little nicer if you take your scissors, and if you've ever wrapped a present, didn't have a bow, you had to make your own, you know exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to take the back of it, I'm going to slide it just underneath here, and very gently I'm going to create a nice back to the fly, just like that. Okay, now let's see, we got one that's not behaving. There we go. Now I'm going to finish this fly with a knot. And the knot that I'm going to tie, I'm going to do it with my hands. You can buy tools. This is called a whip finishing tool. And you can use this tool, but I'm going to do it with my fingers. And the way that you do this is you pull out a bunch of line here, and I'm going to take my back fingers, and I'm going to roll the thread around. I'm going to hold on to the vise, and I'm going to split the fingers, and the cross of thread goes right to the hook shank. Fingers together in the back, rotate down. Split the hook shank with your fingers together in the back, rotate down. Split the hook shank, fingers together, rotate down. And I do that about 4 times. I come out here and I drop one finger and I pull with my left hand, and that cinches the knot up. I'm going to do one more. I like to put 2 sets of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm done. Just tighten it up a little bit. Take my scissors, trim the thread. We're finished with the fly. And we'll put a little lacquer on the top. And in about 5 minutes it will be ready to fish. Now a fly, anytime you pick up a fly, I want to talk about the shading here a little bit. You have certain coloration that goes into a fly. If you look at this one, we're starting with light colors and working our way progressively up the fly to get to the dark very back of the fly. If you look at any fish that's in nature, I don't care what colors they are, they're going to start with some kind of light color on the bottom, and as you go progressively up the fish, up to the back, it's going to get darker. So we try to imitate that with our flies. And this is the finished Rhody Flatwing.
I'm just going to step
Was
out
that
of
a
your
knot
way.
in the line down there? Look about 35 feet down.
Ooh, I don't know. No, it's grass on it. You're fine.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, you were right.
Why don't we swap places so you can get right in there?
Look at that. That's on that green olive clouser there.
It was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I had backed off my drag. Look, that is a knot.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, it is.
It
Oh,
goes
let's
through.
see.
It'll go through.
Yeah.
I'll just tire them out a little bit. Ting, 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 ting. Oh, we can get this one.
Can you get it?
Yeah. That's for being
There
a
you go.
professional mate for so many years.
Yeah.
Knot tying is a profession. Well, undoing them anyway.
Yeah. I know I spend a lot of time on doing that. Sometimes.
All right, look at that.
All right. All right, you guys. I'm out of here. I'm going to catch a fish.
Wow. For some reason, I wasn't worrying about fishing today. Oh, look at this. These are
Trying
nice.
to, whoa, not get too deep.
Get in here. Let's go.
Trying
Yeah,
to
Bonnie, it gets
stay
pretty
upright.
deep over there. Gets pretty deep if you keep walking out. You can walk in a little bit and go down on that next point.
Okay. Whoops.
Oh, he's a nice fish. Mike's gonna be hating this again, Rich.
Rich, you want a clouser
There's
too?
fish coming in here. You got him? Oh, look.
Yeah. Ooh.
You get really excited when this cold water starts coming in here and they start moving up and feeding on this bait that was in here we could see earlier.
Well, let's see. It looks like I can get in right here. Sort of.
Nice fish. Hey Chris, you're gonna stay for lunch? We got lunch coming, you know. You sure? Well, you brought us good luck, so we want you to stay.
Yeah. All the fish are happening, and I'm getting all the weeds. That hurry up and get yourself in trouble
Whacking it
thing.
with his tail. Come on, baby. I don't think he's ready.
Oh, nice fish.
Look at this. Oh my God. That's what Check Your Fly is all about, folks. Look at that. Beautiful striper. Look at that, Bonnie,
Looking
huh?
great.
See, I wasn't worried. I knew those fish were coming back that we saw last night. Little overcast. There you go, folks. Olive green clouser. A little banged up, with a little red underneath his chin to represent the gill plates. Little crystal flash in there. Got some red eyes on him. Put this fish back in the water. Rich also got a fish down there too. Look at that. He's ready to go.
There we go.
Wait till he sees me. He's gonna spook. There he goes. There we go. Right on there. Oh, another nice fish. Come on in here. You're tired. I know. You're exhausted. Yeah. Look at that. Look at the colors on this fish. Oh. God. Those are beautiful fish. Like double hooked himself. There you go. Nice and handless. Let's get another hit, Bonnie. Look at this one. He's a little bit smaller, but it's still a nice fish. Look at the stomach on him. Look at that. Beautiful fish here. Narragansett Bay. Can't beat it. We're in waders. There's all kinds of bait around us. The fish are 10 feet in front of us. And what a ball, you know? You can come down here right after work. Come out here and fish for 2 hours and enjoy yourself, and even if you don't catch fish, it's just so beautiful here. And to find out where we're fishing, just jump on the website, www.checkyourfly.net. Well, we're gonna catch a couple more fish here.